Welcome to the show. We hope you have a blast. Thanks for making time for the Dealer Talk podcast.
What up? Welcome to another episode of the Dealer Talk podcast. This is your host, Herb Anderson. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today's session is going to be super informative, so make sure to tune in all the way through. Lots of good information here, especially I foresee it to be information that's going to be very relevant to the times. So without further ado, the guest for today is Eric Miltsch.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Fortunately, everything is going well personally. Everything's going well with the family. Everybody's healthy. Business has been going well, fortunately. A lot of clients are doing well. The industry has turned around. So again, very thankful, just very fortunate for the way things have been going, and just taking it day by day and trying to make things better, and honestly just trying to learn a lot from everything we've been going through. That's what we've got to do right now.
Yeah, no, I totally get it, and I agree, man. I'm definitely excited to have a conversation with you. Lots and lots of good stuff happening, but at the same time, we're starting to see a little bit of a shift in activity that has me a little alert and interested to get your take. So I usually kick things off with experience, right? Your background. Let us know what you've been up to, what you've been doing. So kick us off with that.
Yeah. So long story short, I've been in the industry for, my God, I don't even know, 15 years plus or so. I cut my teeth in the industry originally with a used car superstore. I was very fortunate to be a part of. We turned that into the number one independent used car store in the country. After that, got involved with some individual consulting. And then I was fortunate enough to actually have the opportunity to work with my first CEO from the first group and helped him start another smaller version of what we originally launched. And we launched 4 dealerships, again, on the independent side. We did that about 4 years ago. And coincidentally enough, that was literally around the same time that we started Dealer Teamwork and launched that with a couple of my friends in the industry. And we had a nice little vision to start off with, creating something that would help dealers. Never really anticipated it getting as big as we are right now, but we're fortunate enough to just to have some decent success and offer up some great solutions for dealers that ultimately help them with some of their biggest marketing problems. So again, just that's a little bit a little bit of the background, but short term, what we've been doing since COVID started, like I said before, just learning what's going on in the industry. As you said, things are crazy, things are changing. And so we've tried to learn a lot from that and just pay attention to what those main factors are. And, that's hopefully we can get into some of that stuff today.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. I'm definitely looking forward to that. I want to start talking, I want to start this conversation talking about Google My Business, because I've seen some of the stuff that you guys do for that. I have tons of questions about it. As a matter of fact, I'm actually in the midst of educational debate with one of the groups that I work with on it. And I would just love to get your perspective on a couple things. 50,000 view. Why is Google My Business so important in 2020 in a COVID type landscape?
That's an awesome question. And well, first, let's take a look at that high level overview. Okay. About 85, 86, 87%, depending on which study you look at. Let's just leave it at, there's a lot of people out there. Their first activity online is to look for a local business. That's what they're doing. Plain and simple. I don't care what device you want to talk about. I don't care where they're located. That's their activity. That's what they end up doing. And then again, depending on what study you want to refer back to, but let's just leave it very simple, high level overview is, usually within about 72 hours, people wind up visiting that business. Okay. So now that we've set the premise, it's real simple to say that, well, logically, your business needs to be visible, obviously, on Google. Okay. And, going from there, we know the next logical step again is that business needs to be found. Well, how do you do that? And that's where most businesses struggle. They don't understand, obviously, the consumer behavior. They don't understand the segment that the traffic is coming from, and they lack the ability, even if they do know that people are actually going to the Google My Business, again, whether it's on desktop, laptop, whatever, they don't realize that they're missing out on the opportunity to actually track that. The way I like to say it is this. We used to take a look at, hey, Bob, your organic traffic is up or your organic traffic is down. They don't realize that there's an opportunity to simply break it down and say, well, your organic traffic is also made up of your Google My Business traffic. And we can actually track that. And from there, we can actually track what they're clicking on, what they're doing in there. And they don't, and on top of that, those other items like your reputation management, meaning the reviews, and the other features now that Google is slowly starting to talk about and introduce, and we'll talk about those as well. But just in terms of being able to understand how you can actually drill down and measure and quantify that activity and how that relates to not only the true customer activity, but where they're going, what they're doing, how that affects your brand, and ultimately the decisions that you make on the rest of your marketing campaign.
Yeah, I like that, and I definitely want to develop a couple of points here. Let's start with relevancy, right? Mm-hmm. Because I did a breakout session in NADA. Was it earlier this year? I feel like it was earlier this year. Maybe it was late last year. With everything going on. But I think it was in February of this year. But anyway, so one of the things that they talked about is that a lot of your ranking and relevancy is going to come 80% or something like that, where the numbers is going to come from your GMB, right? Because that information, how Google interprets that information and compares to local directory listings, your website, and all those things. They're really looking at that stuff to make sure that information kind of is in line, and if so, then you reward, and if it's not, then there may be some penalties there. What is why is it important for us to right now to have that? I mean, is that true? Do you see that being more of a push from Google?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, let's break it down very simple for everybody at home, and in terms of what Google, their main job is. And again, if you look at it on a very basic basis like that, Google has one job for the local, for local market shoppers, and that's they need to deliver good, relevant information, and they need to show them the businesses that are actually near them. And I read probably a couple of years ago, that was literally how Google described it. Their job was to deliver the best local results for businesses that are near that shopper at that moment. Okay, so most importantly, obviously from a mobile device as well, especially when you're out and about, or even if you are on your device at home, you still want to be able to find the best business that's near you at that moment. So how does Google do that? They just simply need to find that business information. Okay, and that business information, what does that consist of? Name, address, phone number, business description, and now there's all these other signals that can essentially give Google what they're looking for on that list of, let's just say, obviously we know there's several dozen of them, if not more, but we know that there's at least 10 of them that we can run through very, very simply, starting obviously with a claimed and verified profile. Now, most businesses are at the point where they are. Every once in a while, I'm sure you've seen it too, where you have a dealership that, like I said, unfortunately, they don't have it verified, or they don't have access to it, and it's not claimed. So that's the first step. And then after that, we can run through all those other items. You mentioned, or you already mentioned, obviously, the directories. So, there's citations, and then there's review sites, and there's two different buckets. So you have things like Yelp, you have things like regional directories like a yp.com or yellowpages.com. Those fall into those categories. Now, I don't know if you've ever tried to manage those individually and do that. I did that originally in one of our dealerships. Oh my God, that was the bane of my existence. It was, it's like I like to describe it as painting a bridge. Get to the end, you got to start back over, and it's never done. And it's very, very hard. Thankfully, there are a ton of tools out there that allow for that. And being able to use those obviously consistently and accurately, so it just simply runs seamlessly behind the scenes. But again, knowing that that's a piece of it. Being able to to address your original question, the relevancy is the key. That's all the theme is, and that's all everybody needs to understand. You need to add that consistency and that accuracy so you can deliver the relevancy that Google is looking for. Because again, that's what Google's job very simply is designed to do, is just deliver those results like that.
Yeah, and well, think about it. I would take that even a step further, Eric, and say that their job is do that, but at the same time keep people on Google as long as possible.
Absolutely.
Right? Eventually, you're going to see inventory on the Google feed. That's what I think is next, right? You're going to see the inventory right there. You're not even going to have to go to the website in a lot of the cases, because everything's going to be scrolling there. You'll have videos. They're going to do everything in their power to try to keep you on there as long as possible. And so, before we leave this, I want to talk a little bit more about the directories, because it's one of those things that I'm currently debating with this group that I'm working with right now. Does it impact your SEO? Or maybe not SEO, but does it impact your ranking? Does it impact, you know what I mean? What's the impact? Because if you have a lot of let me back up. Here's a debate. Well, it's relevant for us to update our information there because nobody's ever going to go there to look for a car. I know that, nobody's going to go to, I don't know, whatever local listing is to look for a piece of inventory, but Google's going to look at that listing and they're going to be like, okay, does this information match this information over here? And if it does, then it creates strength. If it's the same name but the wrong phone number and the wrong address, then Google's like, well, this here says it's this, but this over here says it's that, and now it's not. I don't trust it as much. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, they have said over the last couple of years that the weighting, let's just call it the weighting factor, the amount that it does impact, it may have been lessened, but nonetheless, it's still among the top 10 ranking factors that Google lists out there. Now, how much it impacts it, who knows? But the fact remains, Google has simply said, this is part of our top 10 local ranking factors. So I've always subscribed to the belief that if Google has it on a list and they've already claimed it as being important at that moment in time, yes, that is something that we should pay attention to. You and I are never going to be able to outsmart Google, no matter how hard we try, and come up with a different way to try to influence it. But if that's what they said, I'm going to follow it. And I know firsthand, just from doing thousands and thousands of Google My Business profiles over my career, that those profiles that I neglect those elements from, or the dealers that don't move forward with those type of efforts, we have clearly seen the impact that those things have on it. And it's not just that. So to your point, I think if we just had a Google My Business profile and we were able to make a side-by-side test case where all we did was just directories versus one with directories and all the other items on that top 10 list, clearly those items, those profiles that we did with all the items on the list would clearly stand out. For instance, just the reviews alone. We know that Google has said that the pace at which you get positive reviews, that's a ranking factor. Well, on top of that, responding to reviews, not just the negative ones, not just the positive ones, everything, that's a ranking factor. And then hidden into both of those actually is the ability to include keywords or just more relevant terms and phrases in there. And here's the kicker. It's very, very tough, obviously, to get your make and model, like for instance, Ford F-150 or your dealership name. You can't control that from the customer standpoint. You might be able to coach them, whether they do it or not, up to them. But if you do get it, that's why Google puts the emphasis on it. And I've been saying this now for quite a while as well. If Google gives us a box to fill in content, again, they're going to use a portion of that as a signal. So now here's where it gets interesting. You get a review response. What do most dealers do? They say they get a nice review and then they wind up replying with, hey, thanks for shopping with us. We hope you enjoy your new car. They leave it at that. And then they, maybe a sign off from there, maybe the GM's name. Again, doing the right things, but now you can actually go a little bit further. Imagine instead of that blanket response that I just said was, you can do something along the lines of, hey, Bob, thanks for buying your 2021 Ford F-150 XLT, at Mel Hamilton Ford, in Wichita, Kansas. Now you just got everything in there. You got your location, you got your brand name, you got your make model. Those all contribute to it. And I have seen that actually work out in favor, obviously, of a local search when somebody starts typing in, something like, Ford dealership, Wichita, Kansas. If somebody does a search like that in that market, again, I have the proof where somebody has, done that search, and you've got the screenshot, and in there you can see where they highlight, obviously, the keywords, and it's a keyword that came literally from the review response. So that they're clearly showing you what they're looking for, what drove that response, and pushed that up to the top in the map pack. So that stuff obviously does work, and I've seen it numerous times. So all of these things, again, in conjunction, working together, that's how you create your, to answer your question, that's how you create the relevancy.
Yeah, man. And I want to harp on this a little bit more, because it's very frustrating to me when I have these conversations with dealerships and people in the dealership, and they don't put those things together. And you said something right now that's very powerful. If the area is there for you to create and put your information on there, why would you not have it correctly? Like, I do not understand. Even let's just say that one deal comes off of that. Forget Google and ranking and all that stuff, which definitely impacts. But forget all that. Let's just say that you can get one deal off of it. Is it not worth it? Like, why can't we? I don't understand. Like, why are we making this? We're making this a lot more complicated than it has to be. Just put your information accurately wherever you can. It's just good business. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand why we're fighting this so much.
Yeah, there tends to be those blind arguments like that are just quite pointless, in my opinion. But again, to the point I'm making is, if that box is there, leverage it. And here's what's even better. I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but in, say, for instance, the business description at the bottom of your profile, they literally tell you in the profile 750 characters. Again, there's a reason for that. They want to give you the guidance from the user experience to be able to obviously tell you how many characters go in, but that's also a spot to understand, hey, you know what? My standard profile that I just copied from my About Us page on my website is only 275. Well, if you've got the rest of the character space there, again, use it. Same thing in the product section too. They let you now create this product section on the profiles as well. And what do you get within there? You get a mini card. I like to call it like a lower level page inside your local landing page. And what do you get in that? You get 1,000 characters in that space. And you'd be amazed, obviously, and I'm sure you've seen it. People will put in there, make and model of the car. Here's the price. That's it. And you get this big gap. And again, they're just missing out on opportunity to be able to add more relevance to it.
And it's free. That's the other thing. I don't get it, man. It's free. Oh my God. It's just crazy.
So here's the other side of it. For years we've been hearing about now, since the addition of featured snippets and, people also ask sections and the different carousels between video and images and all the other stuff that now occupies page one that essentially contribute to this phenomenon known as zero-click search. Well, I think there's a happy medium to be met with regards to optimizing the Google My Business profile properly, and we should simply call it a one-click search, because they're searching for either your brand or for what we call a discovery search. Used car dealer near me or Ford service near me, whatever. And so what comes up? Hopefully, if it's optimized properly, the dealer's GMB page will come up. There's your local landing page, as I like to call it. Well, now if it's done properly, you have everything that they possibly need. Because again, if it's just think about it like this: if it's just a dealership search, again, Bob Smith Ford or whatever it is, you don't necessarily know what their intent is, as I put it. Mm-hmm. Well, if it's done properly, you've just given them the opportunity to do a one-click search. Read a review, leave a review, get directions, call, schedule an appointment, click through the website, obviously, to look for more info. Obviously you can do the menu link, go to a specific landing page. Now you got the Q&A section as well. I've been leveraging that. That's the newest addition to the list as well. One of my favorite things to do is just create general content, around the top 10 questions that each department would naturally experience. Why not take those? You already done the effort to answer them, put them on the website, strip it down even more, put it in the Q&A section inside the GMB. That's a simple way to fill up more content boxes. And again, they don't put any limit on that. They don't put it how many you can add in there. Most dealers don't even realize they have the Q&A on there, and if they do see it, they don't realize that they can answer it. So again, more boxes, more content, more opportunities for relevancy.
Yeah. And then the other thing too, dude, like think about it this way. Your competitors aren't doing it. The majority of your competitors aren't doing it. So if you do it, you know what I mean? If you're the one that does it, even if it just, pushes you, nudges you just a little bit, is that not worth it?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, let's take advantage of it now, because once it becomes like a mandatory thing, or Google starts charging for it, or all these things, now everybody's going to be doing it, and that competitive advantage is going to be gone. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I don't understand. Yeah, like, why are we fighting this? I don't get it. You know what I mean? Like, anyway. So what would you say to, because this is the other thing that I hear a lot with this group in particular, and just with stores, that when I have conversations, well, these companies just want to charge you for it. So they make the stuff up, you know what I mean? So, because otherwise they won't be able to charge you money. Have you heard that? Like, what is your argument to that?
Oh, of course. I think the most commonly asked question is just simply, what are you doing? And I think that's our responsibility, obviously, to just simply explain it a little bit simpler, basically like we're doing here. It just needs to be a very straightforward, honest, and transparent conversation about why it's important. What is it? Why is it important? And obviously, what makes me different about why you should entrust me, with that portion of it. And I think what helps is obviously some of the experience that I can bring to the table with regards to, again, doing it myself. I tried this manually. I tried to do this by hand for multiple stores, still had decent success with it, but it never got to the level of my own personal expectations. Then you throw in that whole extra layer about what is it that's actually making this tick behind the scenes. And it's simple. Like we said before, the rules that Google has in place. Why are they making, why is this important, and why is Google, stressing this? And again, I liked how you put it before. Google's got more stuff coming out, so why not take advantage of this now? And why are you fighting it? What's going to happen? Think about what happened several years back when social finally started to become an acceptable, mass acceptance level. Well, you still had those dealers that were fighting it, and even longer back than that, you had dealers fighting mobile. And then even before that, you had dealers fighting the internet. And at each phase of that progression, the natural progression, there were always those late adopters and those fighters. Well, every single time that happened in history, go back and recount the opportunities that were there. But you can also count the number of times that the dealers finally woke up and realized, I missed moving to a responsive website. Oh, I missed going to more video. Oh, I missed my opportunity on social. Oh, I missed not using blogs. Whatever it may be. There's just a litany of them. Why do you want to fall into that trap again with something like this? And we know what's coming. Like you said, all the new features, such as the inventory feed. So even more so, have you seen what they've been experimenting within the home and local services arena for like plumbers, with the guaranteed badge?
Yeah.
So perfect business lesson, just in general. I'll describe it real quick for those that aren't aware. They're putting a guaranteed badge on there, and they're charging the business $50 a month. Okay. Google said that if they can penetrate about 20% of all of their business customers, all of their Google My Business customers, you know how much money they'll make? About $2.2 billion just off that little green badge. It's a brilliant move, but what it's doing is it's obviously getting more usage, more loyalty, more greater interaction. And I can tell you by my own personal experience, when that rolled out, I actually had to call a plumber. It was probably like within a week they started rolling that out. And of course, I clicked on the plumber that had that green badge, and that plumber got my business.
Well, and let's not forget that SEM is on a decline, right? Which is something that has me concerned, just overall. But what, and Google's has recently, like I think last month or the month before that, they made an adjustment to how they report that information because they're trying to get those revenue dollars up. So trust me, they're going to try to find a way to make up for that money. You know what I mean? And so, so things are going to be coming out, and I think it's going to be accelerated. And the people that are bought in and they're doing these things now are going to be ahead. You know what I mean? So going back to that really quick, one last question I have about that scenario in particular. When we talk about just information, dude, like how important is it for us to have accurate, not accurate, but because they're the example is they're both accurate. It's just, they're for different reasons, but how important is it to have that consistency in information? And here's a perfect example. And I just last night, I sent out an email to all the group because I noticed this discrepancy. And, it's just fortuitous for me that we're having this conversation. I can pick your brain. So I noticed that the GMB phone number and the phone number in the website differs, right? And so I sent out to the team, and the response was like, hey, well, it's different because we got a tracking number for some of our third parties here, and then we put the regular phone number on the GMB. Shouldn't we have the same number on there? Like, is that not a better practice? Like, you can put that tracking number in your Google My Business. Isn't it better to just have that connection so that phone number matches?
Actually, there is the ability to add a second tracking number to the GMB profile now. There's a second line in there. But Google has essentially relaxed that old standby of having those match. So no, it doesn't necessarily. Again, there's different ways to skin that cat with the phone numbers that you use on your website, whether it's a DNI, a dynamically changing number. But that's why Google has responded in kind to have that secondary field as well. So it's not as important as it was before. It's not that inconsistency isn't going to be detrimental to.
Yeah. So, but you can add the tracking number in there and have two numbers.
Yes, you can. There's a second field in the profile admin section where you can actually add that. And again, to your point, they're going to just continue to pile in additional items. And again, some of them, I know, for instance, I just did a blog post on this. I just published it the other day. If you're logged into your email account that is connected obviously to your GMB account that obviously has ownership on that GMB profile, when you do a search in Google of your business, do a branded search rather, what you'll now see is a simple preview of the new Google My Business performance metrics. And there is a button that you'll see in the results that gives you the access into your GMB profile. There's a new button called Promote. If you click Promote, there's a new pop-up that comes up. There's a whole menu of new items in there. The first one is called Performance. Click Performance. It'll take you into a new pop-up that is basically a preview of what's to come in the Insights tab within your Google My Business profile. So you know how historically they will only give you performance activity on the engagement for last 7 days, 30 days, or I think it's 7, 28 days, and 90 days. Well, now they've given you an expanded window of up to 6 months. You can select, a 2-month period, 3-month, 4-month, all the way up to 6 months. You can select 1 month. And then on top of that, they finally give you year-over-year comparison data. So they're starting to now share more relevant data and more relevant information. So you can get, again, more accurate on just the year-over-year performance. That's a key indicator as well. But just that itself, that's another great sign that they've got a lot of really, really cool stuff coming. And I've been speculating for a long time now that ever since the conversations we had at NADA last year with Google as well, that's when I first heard about the inventory feeds possibly showing up within GMB. Yeah. But I believe that they'll have more products that they're going to try to monetize within that. Maybe some type of, they're really pushing obviously the local discovery ads. So I think there will be some type of dotted line related cousin type of ad maybe that comes within that. I've even said that, who knows, maybe something crazy enough where you can conquest an ad within somebody else's GMB. Who knows? Maybe you can pay enough to block somebody from that. Who knows? Whatever it is, Google will come up with a pretty cool solution that will allow you to give you, the additional presence that you need, again, on different devices, different locations, different intent, and different pieces of that. I just think I think the opportunity for that one-click search is huge. Mm-hmm. And then the last thing I'll touch on for the features, I'm sure you've seen it. In everybody's GMB profile, behind the scenes, there is that GMB website. It's a link down in that menu.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that about 4 years ago or so when we started Dealer Teamwork. And so I was like, oh, this is cool. I'll make one up. I figure it would get indexed and show. Well, anybody that's done that quickly realizes that link, that URL they give you, doesn't show up. They've throttled that back, so there's no juice going to it. Well, eventually they're going to do something with it. They'll gas it up, and it'll be shown, probably in a different form. But that was also their attempt to get into obviously being able to sell domain, sell the domain registration. You can buy a domain through that, and it's a great solution for a smaller business that does have a location that needs a web presence. So they're baking a lot of things into that. So who knows what direction will go in, but to just know that there is a ton of opportunities for it with different products, different monetization, different targeting, and obviously, as I said before, new data. There's going to be access to more and more rich data.
Mm-hmm.
So good stuff.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. No, I love that. I learned two things by asking that question. So thank you, man. The other thing I wanted to it's kind of moving along, but it kind of plays into my service background, which I'm super stoked that Google did this, and that was allow a service, Google My Business, without any impact, right? So I wanted to get your thoughts on that, because to me that's probably one of the biggest plays right now. For Google My Business is to be able to have your Google My Business for service separated from sales, and then use that to post offers and those sorts of things. What are you guys seeing in regards to that?
Yeah, we're actually first off, you're absolutely spot on. It's a must-have element of it. Why rely on just the sales related type of searches to capture that intent? So again, to your point, if you're doing it right, obviously you've got your service, you got your opportunity for a parts department as well. You can have those pages. If you're a Ford store, you could have a quick lane page as well. There's a lot of them. Let's say you've got a collision shop. You could have a page for that if that's a separate location. That's a completely separate category too. There's a lot of them there. I mean, even if there's a standalone location for an insurance agency that maybe a larger group has, again, huge opportunities. Maybe you have a separate used car store too. Now you lump them all in together, and I'm sure you've seen it. You've got the link that says located within, and then you get extra links in there. But again, more to your point about just matching the relevancy and being able to capture those very, very specific searches. Because if anybody hasn't done it, just go through your keyword insights and you'll see, you may not see it on the first page or maybe even the second, but drill down. There's a ton of pages in there. Just click through to the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and beyond, and all of a sudden you might see a sprinkling of service and parts related pages in there. And if that doesn't trigger your thought process to be able to say, hey, maybe we need not only that profile, but obviously everything we just talked about, optimizing towards the sales profile, do the same exact thing for service and parts.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those things that I'm like, why would you not do it? If it's available to you and it's another touch point, it's another opportunity for you to get that information out there, do it. You know what I mean? Just do it. To me, it just doesn't make sense that we're not capitalizing on a lot of these things. So before we leave completely the conversation about GMBs, I want to talk about one last element that I don't see a lot of dealers doing it. The ones that have invested the time to optimize and do all that stuff, great. They have all the information, everything's there. Maybe they're posting regularly. But one thing that seems to be missing a lot is tagging. Mm-hmm. I don't see a lot of that. Why is that important, man? Why is it important for us to tag our GMBs and specific things, phone numbers, websites, that sort of thing? Like, why does that matter? Why should we be looking into that?
Yeah, great question. I'm glad you asked that. And I kind of hinted to it before when we were talking about that high level organic is up or down, being able to segment it out. Well, how do you do that? Very simply, to your point, making sure that your main website button, the menu link, or what we call the products and services link, it was named menu, obviously, for the restaurants. That's the label that they give it. But then you have the appointments link. So you got 3 potential CTAs now that right on the front that most dealers by default obviously just have the website button not tagged. Well, the moment you tag that and add the other 2 with the tags, now you go even deeper. Like we said, the products section, you can add a ton of products in there. I've taken some dealerships from 1 untagged CTA to 24 total new additional CTAs at various points throughout the entire profile. Now, even more importantly, I have the ability to see which links are clicked, and it helps me obviously break down my traffic segments and sources to be able to understand this piece of my organic traffic actually came from the GMB. It came from that link and it went to this page. And now I can actually track the conversions, which is a really important tie into it, because now we have the ability through dealer teamwork within our MPOP analytics. We are able to see in our reporting platform the amount of, again, like I said, the amount of organic traffic that came in through the GMB that clicked on, say, the appointment link or the menu link, and how many people actually filled out a form, how many people completed a click to call conversion. And it just bigger picture, it just ties back into that data and that insights that you need, not only to make sure that you're just hitting your goals and your objectives to be able to do the right things on a day-to-day consistent basis, but also to be able to make better decisions. And the one last point I'll make to that is, if you're paying for obviously for pay-per-click traffic through Google, and you're buying your branded name, how can you possibly measure the amount that you need to spend on your brand if you don't know how much free traffic that you're getting through your GMB? And yes, those tags, now you just balanced out the other side of that scale, and you can make at least a better educated guess in terms of, hey, you know what, I'm getting X number of hundreds or thousands of visits through my Google My Business altogether. So.
See, and here's the thing, dude. Here's what's crazy about that, and that's such a good statement that you just made right now. But you can go to your GA and you can do a report on landing pages, and you can either customize it or you can use the one that's already in Google Analytics, and you can see that. You can actually see. You can't do it on all users because it's going to calculate everything. You have to drill that down to the campaign. But you can see CPC, and then you can break down and you can analyze that traffic, and you can see on GA, like what does that look like? You know what I mean? Because otherwise you don't need, to your point, like if you don't know what you're getting free, maybe you don't need to do CPC. Maybe your organic traffic is so badass that you don't even need to do it. You know what I mean? Or on the other end of the spectrum, maybe it's terrible. Right. And you need to put a lot more money into CPC because you need to have that exposure. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's helpful, like just to your point, whether you're in a very competitive market, maybe that's where it is extra helpful from knowing how much more you do need to spend. But on top of that, what about the opposite end of the spectrum? When you're the only store in a rural area, you start to look at that and you realize, hey, you know what? Maybe I don't need to pay for my name as much because I don't have any competition, whether it's on brand or conquest. So,
yeah, no, I love that, dude. That's great. So, I wanted to take kind of like the second half of this conversation to talk about SEO, and in particular, I want to maybe start by talking more about dealer teamwork and what you guys do, because you guys have a pretty cool feature that I was able to demo a few months back that I really, really liked. There was a specific page with your inventory. It was pretty neat, and it reminds me a lot of the kind of like a middleman strategy almost. I mean, not quite because of Lincoln and all that stuff, but it kind of reminds me of that setup. And I'd love for us to kind of talk about that. But I think in order to do that effectively, we kind of have to explain a little bit what you guys do and then kind of roll into that.
Yeah. So great question. So I'll keep it real simple for everybody at home. We created a very simple to use platform that allows dealers to merchandise their vehicles. What does that mean? Basically putting in your your payments, your incentives, your offers, your leases, all of that great stuff. And again, going back to our earlier example, to try to do that by hand, virtually impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I was referring to when I said before, we're trying to solve the problems that dealers face. So one of the other major problems, to your point, was we wanted to be able to make really, really good pages that not only ranked well and performed well organically for the dealership, but also converted and got the engagement that dealers need. And we all know that making those effective pages are very hard to do. It's time consuming. Sometimes they just don't look that good if you don't have a good, consistent plan. Unfortunately, it might cost a lot by using different solutions out there. Then you start getting into the fragmented type of approach. You got too many vendors in the mix. So we just combined that in and made a very simple, very easy to use solution that was powered by very, very intelligent marketing automation that just simply lets that run behind the scenes. Inventory feed comes in, you take that data, pump it back out, put it on your pages, put it in your paid search, put it in your social media, prepare it for email. And then on top of that, link everything together with your Google My Business. That's it in a nutshell. It's a very, very simple approach. And then to your point before, the SEO element of that, like I said, those pages are designed simply to show up in Google for very, very specific, high intent type of make model searches. For instance, Ford F-150 lease deal. Now that's a term that's searched, I'm not sure exactly, maybe 8,000 times a month, something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you get the point.
Yeah.
You take any make and model like that, and there's lease deals, lease prices, lease offers, lease specials, finance prices, all of those, any type of content that would support that topic. And what I've experienced, and again, I'd love to hear other people's opinions on that, so reach out to me if you have an opposing view, but I believe that things like Ford Explorer for sale, very, very heavily searched term, very, very competitive at the higher level with a lot of the third party and larger sites that is very, very difficult to compete with. And what I found is over time, both the homepage and or the SRPs, rather, the vehicle search pages, those pages have a better opportunity, if structured properly, to rank for the for sale intent terms. And so what I've taken is the approach to take our landing pages to, I don't want those to compete. Now you have competing content. So we structure those and try to optimize more for, like I said before, the lease deal, lease price type of, or just simply the Ford Explorer price type of terms. And believe me, after about 90 days or so, once they're added to the dealer's website, on their domain, they're not framed in. It's not a plug-in or anything like that. It's just it's just the HTML on that page, and it's powered by our platform. Those things rank very, 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 very well.
So let's talk about the back end of this deal, right? Because I want people to really understand how this, why this works. So correct me if I'm wrong. Those are individual landing pages, right?
Yes.
Embedded within the website.
Yeah, so our code is popped onto the website, just allows our platform to communicate seamlessly behind the scenes, pass the data through. And again, it's a URL that's on the domain. It's not a subdomain. It's not a microsite. It's on the site, on the dealer's website. So you may have, Bob Smith Ford / Ford Explorer lease deals and finance offers in city and state. There's your perfect URL. And then everything else from top to bottom, metadata, page title, H1s, all the content. We've got nice rich content in terms of the questions. What are people searching for when they're searching for a price for a vehicle? How much is a Ford Explorer? So we've literally got that question on the page. And then we've got great supporting content that adds to that. And again, all we're trying to do is build relevancy around a single topic. We don't focus in on so much how well do we rank for an individual term. I can demonstrate to anybody and any of our clients at any time what they rank for one specific term. But what we're trying to do is demonstrate that, hey, we've got a topic that we're trying to approach, because there's lots of them. There's lease a Ford Explorer, and then there's Ford Explorer leases. there's two different terms. You may rank for different points of it, different points of the spectrum, but if we can get a bulk of those terms to the front page or very near that, or especially even better, help contribute to the GMB type of relevance, by all means, that's that's the type of approach that we'd like to take. And now that balances it all out, takes it off the dealer's shoulders, and absolves them of that responsibility, while aiding in their productivity, reducing their costs, but more importantly, giving them more sales opportunities that they need to be able to hit their monthly goals.
Yeah, man. And you said something earlier that I want to expand on, because, with that additional content there, what happens is consumer intent, right? It connects the two. Somebody goes on Google, starts to search for these certain terms, and it's gonna pull that information up. You know what I mean? And think about how effective the connection is going to be there with the user, because they're pulling up information that's relevant to their search, right? A lot of times when they do, let's say that you do populate for the lease deal, right? But they go onto your website and there's no lease information on there, or there's, you know what I mean? It serves up the VDP of that car, but it doesn't give them the information that they want.
You said it perfectly. That was one of the bigger problems that we were trying to solve as well. When somebody, and we always use this as our standing example, if somebody's searching for a lease price on a vehicle, your job as a marketer is to obviously give them the answer to that question. And if that answer to the question isn't there, you're probably not going to get the click. Now, if it is there, you probably will get the click. And if they do get the click, what are they expecting when they click through on that on that ad? They're expecting the content to remain consistent. And if you just saw, a $279 or a $385 lease, whatever it may be, and you click that, obviously you're waiting for it. Now, if you land on a site that says 0% financing, or $3,500 off MSRP, yes, it's transactional data, but it's not the same as what you just clicked on that ad. It's not the same. And now, there's so many different ways to put it. We like to say that you broke the customer's trust at that point, but let's call it what it is. It's a terrible experience, and now you're like, oh, great, I was expecting 389. I didn't get that. Now I got to go back out. Let me go, you might pogo stick back out to the main Google results, or start over another search. If the dealers, at the very least, if they're lucky at all, maybe they went back into the homepage of the website and started rooting around and try to find that. But even like what you said, you go to the specials page and it's just empty. So we wanted to make sure that the dealer never missed that sales opportunity, and that's again ties back to the intelligent marketing automation that we put together. So it ensures that feed's always coming in. Our system's always running through the rate cards and the rate tables to be able to spit out something. And even worse, how about when you click on a car you saw in an ad, and then you get to the site and it's there, and it's sold. That's another downfall of the experience. So tying all these things together are so crucial. And there's then you have the whole other end of the spectrum with regards to accuracy for compliance. That has to be taken care of. And so we've rolled that in as well. So you're hitting on so many different levels of it, to be able to consolidate everything into a nice, simple to use, all-in-one type of platform that does exactly what the dealer needs. And it's different for everybody. That everybody's process is different. Some dealers are really, really hell-bent on having their content pushed to their emails, and they have consistent plans for it. Well, our system will do that, prepare the content for you. Not all of them use it, but again, it's available for it. If you have a consolidated system, we can handle that for you.
Right on, man. So let me ask you this question. Wow, excuse me. Let me ask you this question, because as you were talking, it came to mind, and I definitely want to bring it up. So when it comes to SEO, right, in kind of in the state that we are now, because I don't think we're post anything yet. How should we be thinking about different terminology, different keywords? I mean, like things that are maybe COVID related. I mean, should we be thinking about those sorts of things? Is that something that we should invest time on? Maybe not so much COVID in itself, but maybe the things that are different, right? Buy online, and for service, we would be like drop off, pick up, hands free, hands off, sort of a deal. What are your thoughts on that, man, for maybe the next 6 months? You know what I mean? Because I feel like we're going to go into next year at this point with all these things kind of still unresolved,
Yeah, Yeah, excellent question. I think if you approach it like with any other topic, think back, what was the trend, when the blogging started really coming about and people were like, oh, I'm going to make posts about how to sync my, my Bluetooth to my, infotainment center.
Yeah.
People were searching for topics like that. And of course, everybody ran with it, and people that stayed with it consistently and published good, accurate content and structured it properly, had links, had call to actions, and did it right like that. What happened? Those pages ranked for it.
Yeah.
And some dealers even noticed incredible surges in traffic, from all over the country. It may not have been, equating to sales opportunities, but the point still remains that those are opportunities to drive traffic. Well, take that same approach to your topic, whether it's drop off and delivery terms or, safe delivery, whatever they may be. Do a little research. We all know the tools that are available for that, and be able to understand what that behavior is. And then lastly, just apply it to your own dealership experience. If it's something that is a new topic, let's go back to our original example. You got a content box in Google My Business. Well, guess what? All the dealers now have a new content box, essentially, that they're talking about their health policies or their cleaning policies or their sanitation policies, whatever they may be. There's new talk tracks that dealers are using. Well, why isn't that filled into the website? A lot of dealers did the right thing in making a video saying, everybody is concerned about your health and wellness and all that good stuff. Well, now what was the next phase of that? Digital retailing. And then finally, dealers, to your point too, they started realizing, hey, you know what? We probably should put a video on the homepage that at least talks about what this new widget is, because it took about a year, 2 years for dealers to realize you couldn't just put a round peg, into a square hole, and call it a new solution and call it shopping, call it digital retailing or whatever they call it. So, the point is you need to be able to, talk about it, teach your clients, teach your customers, but also at the same time, be able to create some relevant signals for Google and the search engines to be able to read it and understand it. So if somebody in your market does show it, does show a desire for that, you can show up for those. So, you're spot on with your thinking with that. You have to take into consideration what your current experience is and just apply it to a tactic like that.
Blogging, do you think that's still something effective for dealers to do on their website?
It's harder for car dealers, in my opinion. You can do much more with it if you're using video. There's the old school tactic of, it's relatively old school now, in terms of do a video with it and then just write out what the transcript is. You can there's so many different services for that, but or at least use obviously captions on your video. But even just being able to print out and write out rather and include the actual transcript of the video. Obviously, if you got a 30-minute video, you don't need the whole transcript on there, or at least snippets of it. But I think there's opportunities to be able to leverage that too, and even more so if you really want to get into the right tactical usage of a longer form video. I've seen so many different examples where one 50 to 60-minute video. Even for something like this for yourself, this video itself could be cut down into probably 10 different 10-minute snippets. You got maybe 20 different 5-minute snippets, and then you probably got another 30 alone that are just maybe 1 minute, 2 minute alone, little sound bites like that. I think Gary Vee's been a big proponent of it for a while as well. That he's on this kick where to do what, like
60 pieces of content a day, yeah.
And it's really not that hard when you have, exactly like I said, we've been doing it ourselves.
I don't know, man. I edit everything myself, so it's
in that case, absolutely, it is hard. But if you're Gary Vee and you got a team, I'm fortunate, a little bit more fortunate. I got two amazing people that help with our marketing department at Dealer Teamwork, and we do a lot of video work as well. We do rely on the videos, but we start on a high level. So if you're creating a topic, content around a topic, and you start with that long form video, just chunk it down, and we've done it ourselves. We've created, say for instance, 23 additional marketing pieces off of one. But again, it's not just about hitting from an SEO organic standpoint. That's one factor of it. And now it's more about, more content forms, more devices, more channels, and then being able to tie it all back to one consistent and relevant theme.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, I'm a believer in that. I agree. I mean, it is time consuming if you're doing it as an individual, but as a company, as a dealership where you have multiple people that you can get on that project, like it's totally worth it.
I'd love to throw a challenge out for a GM to just be able to say, hey, you know what, we're going to have a portion of our activity. We're going to kind of function as a media team. I got 20 different salespeople. I got 3 people that are great writers. I got a couple of people that are awesome on camera, and I got a kid over here that's a wizard at editing. Now you got an organic media team basically at your disposal. Carve out a little bit of time for each of them, make some videos, make some posts, make some social stuff, and then feed that to your marketing team. That's the way I would run it if I was a GM as well. It's hard.
That's the future, in my opinion, man. You got your own team. You should have a videographer, photographer, sort of one role, somebody that does social media posting and replies to comments, does all that stuff, a web developer to come up with landing pages, that sort of thing, and then a copywriter, somebody that's going to write content for you. So if you have all those elements and you have somebody kind of strategically organizing that, dude, you're going to grow. Especially right now, because nobody's doing it, dude. But the future is that's going to be the deal. There's going to be no other way. Because think about it, dude, social media is the TV of now. You know what I mean? It's kind of like when radio transitioned from radio to TV, and now TV's transitioned to this. And so, you're your own editor, your own content producer. If you're not on that, you're just not on. So,
you're
thank you so much, dude, for doing this. I really appreciate it. This has been amazing. There is one question that I ask everybody that comes on the show, and that question is, where do you see the automotive industry headed in the next 5 years, and why?
Great question. Real simple. I'll give you simple sound bites on that. Less stores, less reliance on the physical showroom, a much better solution for digital retailing. I think it will unfortunately have to involve a lot of legislation to allow for all the states to be consistent with the full process being able to handle online. Like here in New York, you can't buy a car online with fully. You need to have obviously the wet signature, but things like that will change. We'll probably wind up seeing something major happen with a platform like Amazon. Google will finally crack their code of it again with the introduction of the inventory into Google My Business. But we'll see something huge at the level of either CarMax or Carvana, either merging, getting acquired, things like that, and then really streamlining that approach. And then we'll see a continuation, and hopefully we'll see a massive continuation, obviously, with the EV market, and then we'll probably wind up seeing a change in that business model as well, where we'll finally see individual dealerships with a more of like a quick stop and shop type of thing, like kind of like what they do with their showrooms, but actually have it be like a franchise model as well. And then you'll see some type of continued type of consolidation amongst the bigger brands as well, and just leveraging both the retailing, the online retailing, and probably obviously more of a, like I said before, the EV push. That's what I see.
Right on, man. Yeah, no, I align with a lot of those thoughts. I think I love the concept of just evolution and change right now, because before, when I started the podcast, that was a question, my selfish question for myself. But I think now with COVID and everything, it's dude, it's exciting, man, because I think everything's so accelerated right now. So I
read a great article that said we've seen basically 10 years of accelerated progress jammed into about 9 months so far. And so that's going to end. So.
Hey, man, before we go, so I know that was the last question, but let me ask you one more, because I am noticing a little bit of a decline right now. I'm not concerned, but I am a little at alert, like I said in the beginning, just with it seems like there's a little bit of market contractions, and day supplies seem to be going high. Supply seems to be there, but demand seems to be shortening, for lack of a better word. Are you guys starting to see anything in that realm as far as activity wise?
Yeah, we're starting to see that at different points, different brands, different locations as well. But again, a lot of it is to be expected. And those dealers that are being proactive, obviously, in their ability to be able to respond to the current environment. Obviously, so much going on besides COVID, between the election, economic impacts, and then just uncertainty across the board. And then until the OEMs are back to full production, or at least get back up and running, and dealers start to receive some at full levels, a lot of dealers are still waiting for inventory. So got a lot of stuff like that going on. So that's going to impact a lot of the decisions that dealers make. But I think it's expected. If anybody is shocked for the change that's happening, that's that would be more alarming for me, I think. But most dealers are understanding the reasons behind it. But if they're not responding in kind with regards to the tactics that they use and the strategies they're deploying, again, there's a disconnect there, and that has to be that has to be part of the mix. And that's why we're proud to help a lot of the dealers that we help in terms of being true partners in that regard, and not just there to sell them a product for the sake of making money. There's a much bigger purpose there that we're trying to help.
Right on, man. Dude, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. This was a great conversation. Very excited to share.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
We're going to put all your information in the show notes. So if you guys want to connect with Eric, please go to the show notes. Information is going to be there. I would highly, highly suggest that you do a demo. Check out what these guys have to offer. Listen, I'm not for or against anything on the show here. I did a demo myself. I liked it enough to invite them to come on the show, and I'm actually considering it and my own effort. So hopefully you and I can team up here shortly and collaborate. Do a demo, check it out. I think there's a lot there that for a lot of dealers there's value. So anyway, dude, thank you so much. That's all the time we have for today, everybody. And as usual, we'll talk later.
We only host a well-respected. The vendor LexisNexis. We don't sell digital marketing.
What you do?
We inspect it with our DT vendor management solutions. We come in like the EPA to clear out the pollution.
Take the trash out.
So keep your P&L clean. Your inventory lean.
From product pitches, meetings to cost negotiations, your vendors have you swamped. You have cars to sell, but most of your time goes in managing your vendor relationships. Wouldn't it help to have someone navigate the way ahead? Enter Dealer Talk Vendor Management Solutions, a filter between you and your vendor so you only have to deal with what's most important. We inspect your digital data to get optimum results for your money. Here's what we do. Give you an accurate idea of what's working and what's not for every digital service. Get vendors to submit monthly highlights, lowlights, and recommendations. Sift through their data to give you those metrics that matter. Evaluate all package, content, or cost changes and product pitches. Do monthly marketing budget analysis to ensure better ROIs. Finally, we give you concise reports and monthly videos with actionable insights. Now, you can focus on what really matters: selling cars. Contact us today, and your first 30 days are free. Let's build your business together.